The sound reaches Frank Holloway before he sees anything. Metal scraping against wood, steady and deliberate, like someone sharpening a blade, but softer, more careful. He rounds the corner of his barn with work boots crunching dried grass. The last light of day bleeding orange across the hills. The scraping stops. A boy hunches against the weathered barn wall, maybe 16, maybe 17. Dark hair falls across his face as he works a pocket knife into the wood. His shoulders tense when Frank's shadow falls across him, but he doesn't run, doesn't even look up. "What the hell are you doing?" The boy's hand stills. Frank steps closer, sees letters carved deep into the barn's gray planks. Names, fresh cuts in the wood, some still bleeding sap. Remembering them. Frank's eyes track the carved letters. Sarah Chen. Rebecca Stone. His breath catches on the third name, Mary Holloway, his missing daughter. The knife blade rests against the M in Mary, and Frank's world tilts sideways. Remembering what? The boy finally looks up. Tommy Prescott. Frank knows the family. Good people. Quiet people. Tommy's eyes are older than his face, carry weight that boys his age shouldn't know. The ones nobody talks about. Frank's hands shake. He grabs the boy's wrist, feels the bones beneath thin skin. The knife trembles between them. Why is my daughter's name on this wall? Because she's gone. She ran away. No, sir, she didn't. Frank releases Tommy's wrist like it burned him. He studies the carved names again, sees the list continues below. More names. Some cuts look fresh, white wood showing through. Others are weathered, darkened by seasons of rain and sun. How many names are there? Tommy doesn't answer, just resumes carving, adding depth to the M in Mary. Each stroke deliberate, each cut a small violence against the silence. Frank counts them. 17 names total. 17 girls. Some he recognizes. Jennifer Walsh, who supposedly moved to California 3 years ago. Amanda Cruz, who her mother said got pregnant and ran off with some boy. Lisa Morrison, the commissioner's own niece, who everyone said went to college back east. These girls all left town. That's what they told the families. They? Tommy's knife pauses again. He looks at Frank with those two old eyes, measuring something, deciding how much truth Frank can handle. Men with badges, men with money, men who make the rules around here. Frank's chest tightens. His missing daughter's name sits between Sarah Chen and Rebecca Stone, carved with the same careful precision, like a memorial, like a gravestone. Mary's been gone 2 months. I know. Sheriff Grissom said she probably hitched a ride to the city. Said girls her age do that sometimes. Sheriff Grissom says a lot of things. The way Tommy says it makes Frank's skin crawl. There's knowledge in the boy's voice, certainty that cuts deeper than any knife. You know something. It's not a question. Frank steps closer, close enough to smell the boy's fear, close enough to see his hands shaking as he grips the knife. I know they don't run away. Then where do they go? Tommy's knife returns to Mary's name. He traces the letters like he's reading Braille, following curves and angles with the blade's tip. Somewhere bad men take them. Frank's vision blurs. The barn wall seems to expand, names multiplying before his eyes. 17 daughters. 17 families told lies. 17 silences that nobody questions. Why carve their names? So they're not forgotten. But they're not dead. Tommy stops carving, looks at Frank with something that might be pity. How do you know? The question hangs in the evening air like smoke. Frank realizes he doesn't know anything except what Sheriff Grissom told him, what the whole town believes, what everyone accepts without asking questions. The sheriff would have found them if something happened. Would he? 2 words that crack Frank's world open. Tommy resumes carving, working on the Y in Mary now. The scraping sound returns, steady and relentless. Frank studies the other names. Thinks about the families. The mothers who stopped searching after a few weeks. The fathers who drank more after their daughters left. The way conversations died when missing girls got mentioned. Sarah Chen's family moved away. After they realized nobody was looking for Sarah, Rebecca Stone's mother remarried. After she gave up hope, Frank's throat tightens. Mary's mother died last year. I know. That's why I put Mary's name first. Frank looks closer. Tommy's right. Mary Holloway sits at the top of the list, carved deeper than the others. The letters are perfect, each stroke deliberate, like a promise. You've been planning this. I've been watching. Watching what? Tommy sets down his knife, brushes wood shavings from his jeans. The carved names catch the last light, shadows filling the cuts like wounds. Men who think nobody notices. Men who take girls from families that won't fight back. Men who count on silence. Frank's legs feel weak. He leans against the barn wall, feels the rough wood against his palm. Why tell me? Because you're Mary's father. Her mother was the one who reported her missing. Her mother's dead. You're all she has left. The truth hits Frank like cold water. Mary has no one now. No mother to search. No family to demand answers. Just him. Just a man who believed what he was told because believing was easier than fighting. What do you want me to do? Tommy picks up his knife, returns to carving. The scraping resumes, metal against wood, truth against silence. Stop believing their lies. Frank watches the boy work, watches Mary's name grow deeper, more permanent. The evening grows darker around them. But the carved letters seem to glow with their own light. 17 names, 17 daughters, 17 lies. The sound of the knife doesn't stop. Frank grabs Tommy's wrist harder this time. The boy's bones feel fragile under his grip, but Tommy doesn't pull away, doesn't cry out, just lets Frank study the wall like he's been waiting for this moment. Show me every name. Tommy's free hand points to the top. Mary Holloway, 2 months ago, disappeared walking home from her job at the diner. Frank's throat closes. Mary's name sits carved deeper than the others, the letters perfect and deliberate. Recent wood shavings still cling to the cuts. Sarah Chen, 6 months ago, was supposed to start college in the fall. Frank knows the Chen family, quiet people who ran the small grocery store until they closed it suddenly. Moved away without saying goodbye. Rebecca Stone, 8 months ago, told her mother she was going to visit her cousin. Rebecca Stone. Frank remembers her mother asking around town, putting up flyers. The flyers disappeared after 2 weeks. Nobody talked about Rebecca after that. Jennifer Walsh. 3 years ago. Jennifer moved to California. No, sir, she didn't. Tommy's voice carries certainty that makes Frank's chest tight. The boy points to the next name. Amanda Cruz. 2 years ago. They said she got pregnant and ran off. Frank remembers the rumors. Amanda's mother crying at church. Her father drinking more. The family eventually stopped coming to town altogether. Lisa Morrison. Frank's blood stops. Commissioner Morrison's niece. Yes, sir. 4 years ago. She was 17. Lisa went to college back east. That's what Commissioner Morrison told everyone. The way Tommy says it makes Frank's skin crawl. He releases the boy's wrist, steps back, studies the wall again. 17 names, 17 girls, some carved deep, weathered by seasons, others fresh, still bleeding sap. You're saying these girls didn't leave town. I'm saying they didn't leave by choice. Frank counts them again, recognizes more than half. Girls whose families suddenly went quiet, families who stopped asking questions, families who moved away or stopped coming to town. How long have you been carving these names? Started with Lisa Morrison 4 years ago. You were 12 years old enough to notice when girls disappear. Tommy picks up his knife again, returns to Mary's name, adds depth to the H. Each stroke careful and measured. Old enough to notice when nobody looks for them. Frank's hands shake. He thinks about Mary's empty room, her clothes still hanging in the closet. Her mother's funeral 6 months before Mary disappeared. Where is she? I don't know where they took her. They? Tommy pauses, carving, looks at Frank with those 2 old eyes. Men with badges, men with money. You're lying. Check the courthouse records. Frank's vision blurs. What records? Missing persons reports. Check who filed them. Check who stopped the investigations. Tommy resumes carving, working on the A in Mary now. The scraping sound fills the silence between them. Sheriff Grissom investigated Mary's disappearance. For how long? Frank thinks. Remembers the sheriff's visits. 3 times in the first week. Once the second week. Nothing after that. He said the trail went cold. The trail or the investigation? The question hits Frank like a punch. He leans against the barn wall, feels splinters catch his jacket. You're saying Sheriff Grissom stopped looking on purpose. I'm saying check the records. Tommy moves to the R in Mary. Each cut deliberate. Each stroke a small violence against the silence Frank has accepted. What about the other families? Didn't they demand answers? What families? Frank doesn't understand. The parents. The mothers and fathers. Sarah Chen's parents moved away after the sheriff told them Sarah ran off to the city. Tommy's knife never stops moving. Rebecca Stone's mother remarried and moved 3 counties over. More scraping. More truth carved into old wood. Amanda Cruz's family stopped talking to anyone after the rumors started. Frank's legs feel weak. And Lisa Morrison? Commissioner Morrison handled that investigation personally. The way Tommy says it makes Frank's stomach turn. He thinks about Morrison's power in the county, his connections, his influence over law enforcement. You're saying Morrison covered up his own niece's disappearance. I'm saying check who benefits when investigations stop. Tommy finishes the R, moves to the Y, the final letter in Mary's name. Frank watches the boy work, sees the care he takes with each cut. Why carve their names? Because forgetting them is what they want. They. Men who make the rules, men who decide which girls matter and which girls don't. Frank thinks about Mary's mother, how she fought everyone, how she demanded answers until cancer took her voice, how Mary disappeared 6 months later. Mary's mother would have kept looking. Mary's mother is dead. The truth sits between them like a gravestone. Tommy finishes the Y in Mary, steps back to examine his work. Dead mothers can't ask questions. Frank stares at his daughter's name, carved deeper than the others, more permanent, like a promise or a threat. What makes you think men with badges took them? Because every investigation stopped the same way. Tommy points to Sarah's name. Sheriff told the family she ran away. Case closed. Points to Rebecca's name. Sheriff told the family she went to visit her cousin. Case closed. Points to Amanda's name. Sheriff told the family she ran off with some boy. Case closed. Tommy's finger traces Mary's name. Sheriff told you she hitched a ride to the city. Case closed. Frank's chest tightens. The pattern is clear now. Too clear. Too convenient. Same story, same sheriff, same ending. You could be wrong. Check the courthouse records. Tommy's certainty cuts through Frank's denial. The boy pulls out his knife again, finds an empty space below Mary's name. What are you doing? Adding the next one. Frank's blood freezes. What next one? Tommy's knife bites into fresh wood, starts carving a new name. The girl who disappeared yesterday. Frank grabs Tommy's wrist again, harder this time. What girl? Emma Rodriguez, 15 years old, walked home from school yesterday. The knife stills in Tommy's grip. Never made it home. Frank releases Tommy's wrist, watches the boy resume carving. Emma Rodriguez. Fresh cuts in old wood. Another name added to the list. How do you know about Emma? Same way I knew about all the others. Tommy's knife works steadily, carving truth into silence. I pay attention when girls disappear. The courthouse steps creak under Frank's boots. 10 o'clock at night. The building sits dark except for one window, glowing yellow, on the second floor. Martha Chen unlocks the side door before Frank can knock. You came. Tommy said you had information about Sarah. Martha's face looks older than Frank remembers. Hollow cheeks, tired eyes. Sarah's aunt, the woman who raised Sarah after her parents died in the car accident. I have more than information. She leads Frank through dark hallways lined with portraits of dead judges and forgotten commissioners. Their footsteps echo off marble floors worn smooth by decades of secrets and lies. How long have you worked here? 15 years. Night custodian. Invisible woman with keys to everything. Martha stops at the records office, produces a ring of keys. The lock clicks open with a sound like breaking bones. People forget cleaning ladies exist. They talk around us, leave papers on desks, make phone calls like we're furniture. Frank follows her inside. Filing cabinets line the walls, filled with the county's buried truths. Martha flicks on a desk lamp, keeps the overhead lights off. What did you hear? Enough to know my niece didn't run away. Martha pulls open the first filing cabinet, runs her finger along manila folders until she finds what she's looking for. Missing persons reports. Last 5 years. She spreads the files across the desk. Frank counts them. 18 folders. More than he expected. I thought there were 17 names on Tommy's wall. Emma Rodriguez makes 18. Her file's still being processed. Martha opens Sarah's folder first. 3 pages total. Initial report, 1 follow-up interview. Case closure notice. Sarah Chen, reported missing by me. Investigation lasted 12 days. Frank reads the closure notice. Case closed due to lack of evidence. Subject likely departed voluntarily for urban area. Who signed this? Sheriff Wade Grissom. Martha opens the next folder. Rebecca Stone. Same pattern. Initial report, minimal follow-up, quick closure. Rebecca Stone, reported missing by her mother. Investigation lasted 8 days. Frank checks the signature. Sheriff Wade Grissom again. Same sheriff, same conclusion. Same lie. Martha opens folder after folder. Jennifer Walsh, Amanda Cruz, Lisa Morrison. All closed by Sheriff Grissom. All ruled voluntary departures. Sarah never ran off. Neither did Mary. Frank opens his daughter's folder, thinner than the others. 2 pages. Report filed by Frank himself. Case closed after 6 days. 6 days. That's all the time my daughter got. More than most. Martha points to Lisa Morrison's file. 1 page. Case closed the same day it was reported. Commissioner Morrison's niece got special treatment. Immediate closure. No investigation at all. Frank studies Morrison's signature on the closure notice. Bold letters, confident strokes. The signature of a man who makes problems disappear. Morrison closed his own niece's case? Morrison has authority over all county investigations, but he's not law enforcement. He doesn't need to be. He owns law enforcement. Martha gathers the files, stacks them neatly. 18 missing girls, 18 closed cases, 18 families told the same lie. Then we need proof. I know where to get it. Martha leads Frank to the back of the office, where a small filing cabinet sits hidden behind a broken copy machine. She unlocks it with a different key. Took me 3 years to collect all this. The cabinet contains different files, thicker folders, photographs, handwritten notes, financial documents. What is this? Evidence someone tried to hide. Martha opens the first folder. Photographs spill across the desk. Pictures of young women. Some Frank recognizes, some he doesn't. These are the missing girls. Before they went missing, Frank studies the photos. Sarah Chen at her high school graduation, Rebecca Stone at the county fair, Mary at her mother's funeral, all recent photos. All taken without the girls knowing. Someone was watching them. Someone was hunting them. Martha opens another folder, bank records, deposit slips, money transfers between accounts Frank doesn't recognize. What are these? Payment records. Cash deposits made after each disappearance. Frank traces the dates with his finger. Money deposited into Sheriff Grissom's personal account 3 days after Sarah disappeared. Deposit into Commissioner Morrison's account 2 days after Rebecca vanished. They're being paid. For their silence, Martha spreads out more documents. Phone records showing calls between Grissom and Morrison. Hotel receipts from the county seat. Gas station surveillance photos showing unmarked cars. How did you get all this? 15 years of emptying trash cans, 15 years of being invisible, 15 years of watching powerful men think they're untouchable. Frank finds a handwritten note in Morrison's writing, instructions for handling missing persons reports, orders to close cases quickly, reasons to give families. This is evidence of conspiracy, evidence that could destroy them. Martha opens the final folder, witness statements, handwritten testimonies from people too scared to go to the sheriff. Gas station attendant saw Sarah getting into a black SUV with county plates. Frank reads the statement, saw the girl arguing with 2 men in suits, heard her crying for help, too scared to call police. Diner waitress saw Rebecca leaving with Deputy Curtis Blake. Another statement, Rebecca looked frightened. Blake told the waitress Rebecca was being arrested for shoplifting. Waitress thought it was strange because Rebecca never caused trouble. Motel clerk saw Mary being forced into a room by Sheriff Grissom himself. Frank's hands shake as he reads his daughter's statement. Mary was crying, had zip ties around her wrists. Grissom told the clerk Mary was being arrested for drug possession. 3 witnesses, 3 different girls, same men taking them. Grissom and Blake, sheriff and deputy. Frank studies the financial records again. Payments to both men after each disappearance. Money from accounts tied to shell companies, companies traced back to Morrison's business empire. Morrison pays them, they deliver the girls to him. And families like ours get told lies about runaways. Martha gathers all the evidence, returns it to the hidden cabinet. Frank's mind races with possibilities. Justice, revenge, truth. Why didn't you take this to the state police? And tell them what? That the county sheriff is corrupt? They'd call Grissom to verify the story. Then what do? We get more evidence. Evidence they can't deny or cover up. Martha locks the cabinet, turns off the desk lamp. The office returns to darkness. What kind of evidence? The kind that puts them in prison for life. Frank follows Martha toward the door. His daughter's face haunts him. Mary's photo in that folder, taken without her knowledge. Mary being hunted like an animal. How do we get that evidence? We catch them in the act. Martha locks the records office, leads Frank back through the dark courthouse, past the portraits of dead judges, past the marble floors worn smooth by secrets. Catch them doing what? Taking the next girl. They reach the side door. Martha turns off the hallway light, leaving the courthouse in total darkness. Emma Rodriguez disappeared yesterday. Tommy told me. Emma's not dead yet. None of them are. Morrison keeps them alive. Frank's blood freezes. Keeps them where? That's what we need to find out. Martha opens the door, lets Frank step into the night air. The courthouse looms behind them like a gravestone. How do you know they're alive? Because dead girls don't make Morrison money. The truth hits Frank like cold water. Morrison isn't just kidnapping these girls. He's selling them, using them, keeping them alive for profit. Then we find them. We find them all. Martha locks the courthouse door behind them. 18 missing girls. 18 families destroyed. 18 lies told by men who think they're untouchable. And then we make them pay. Frank's truck sits alone in the courthouse parking lot under a broken streetlight. Gravel crunches behind him as he walks toward the driver's door. Heavy footsteps. More than one person. He doesn't turn around. Frank Holloway. Sheriff Wade Grissom's voice carries the weight of 20 years in law enforcement. 20 years of making problems disappear. Frank turns slowly, keys in his hand. Sheriff. Deputy Curtis Blake stands beside Grissom, younger but meaner. Commissioner Morrison's son, tall like his father, with the same cold eyes and entitled smirk. His hand rests on his service weapon. Out late tonight, Frank. Just visiting the courthouse. Courthouse closes at 5. Frank meets Grissom's stare. The sheriff's face looks carved from stone, weathered by years of corruption and violence. His uniform is pressed, his badge polished, the image of authority. Martha Chen let me in, showing me some records. Curtis steps closer. His boots scrape against gravel like claws on concrete. What kind of records? Missing persons files. The silence stretches between them. Frank can hear his own heartbeat, can smell the sheriff's cologne and Curtis's chewing tobacco, can feel their violence waiting just beneath the surface. Your daughter ran off, Frank. That's the story. Grissom's voice is flat. Matter of fact, the voice of a man who's told this lie so many times he almost believes it himself. I don't believe that story. Then you're gonna have problems. Frank's grip tightens on his keys. The metal cuts into his palm, sharp and real. He thinks about Mary's name carved into the barn wall, about Martha's hidden files, about 18 missing girls. I already have problems. Curtis laughs, a sound like breaking glass. Bigger problems. The deputy pulls his baton from his belt. Black aluminum, worn smooth by use. Frank's seen Curtis use it before, seen him break bones and crack skulls, seen him walk away without consequences. My daughter is missing. Your daughter is gone, Grissom says. Different things entirely. Frank steps backward, feels his truck's bumper against his legs. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Just him and 2 corrupt lawmen in an empty parking lot. Martha Chen's been filling your head with nonsense. Martha's been showing me facts. Martha's been showing you lies. Curtis spins his baton between his fingers. The weapon catches streetlight, flashes like a blade. Martha's been accessing files she has no business reading. Frank thinks about the hidden cabinet, about the evidence Martha collected, about the photographs and financial records that could destroy these men. Public records, anyone can read them. Not anyone, Grissom says. Not you. The sheriff moves closer. Frank can see the lines around his eyes, the gray in his mustache, can smell whiskey on his breath. You need to stop asking questions about things that don't concern you. My daughter concerns me. Your daughter is gone. Accept it. Curtis stops spinning his baton, holds it steady in both hands. Frank's truck windows reflect the broken streetlight, casting shadows across the deputy's face. What if I don't? Grissom smiles, a cold expression that never reaches his eyes. Then you'll lose more than just your daughter. The threat hangs in the air like smoke. Frank understands. These men have power, authority, the ability to make anyone disappear, anyone who asks too many questions. You threatening me, Sheriff? I'm educating you. Curtis steps to Frank's truck, raises his baton above the passenger window. The weapon hovers there, waiting. Education can be painful sometimes. Frank watches the baton, thinks about running, thinks about fighting, thinks about Mary somewhere in the darkness, waiting for someone to find her. I'm not afraid of you. You should be. Curtis brings the baton down hard. The passenger window explodes in a shower of safety glass. Pieces rain down on the gravel like broken stars. Frank doesn't flinch, doesn't move, doesn't give them the satisfaction of fear. That's for asking questions. Curtis moves to the rear window, raises his baton again. This is for bothering Martha Chen. The second window explodes. More glass, more violence. Frank's truck looks wounded now, bleeding light through broken spaces. You cost me a lot of money tonight, Frank. Grissom walks around the truck, inspecting Curtis's handiwork. His boots crunch on broken glass. Money. Every time someone asks questions, it costs me, costs Commissioner Morrison, costs everyone who benefits from keeping things quiet. Curtis moves to the driver's side window. Frank's reflection stares back from the intact glass. His own face looks older, harder, like a man who's lost everything. Last warning, Frank. The baton rises again. Frank closes his eyes, waits for the impact. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Martha Chen's voice cuts through the darkness. Frank opens his eyes, sees her emerge from the courthouse shadows. Her phone is raised, camera recording everything. Evening, Martha. Grissom's voice changes, becomes careful, controlled, the voice of a man who knows he's being watched. Sheriff, Deputy Blake. Martha keeps recording, her phone's light illuminating the broken glass around Frank's truck. Interesting conversation you're having. Curtis lowers his baton. His face twists with rage, but he can't move, can't attack. Not with a camera rolling. Just having a friendly chat with Frank here. Looks very friendly. Martha steps closer, her phone capturing everything. The broken windows, the baton in Curtis's hand, the glass scattered across the parking lot. Frank, are you hurt? Not yet. Good. Because assault is a serious crime. Grissom's jaw tightens. His hand moves toward his weapon, then stops. Too many witnesses now. Too much evidence. Nobody got assaulted here. Windows did. Martha's phone keeps recording. Frank realizes she's been watching, waiting, ready to document whatever these men tried to do. Vandalism is also a crime, Sheriff. Prove it. I just did. Martha waves her phone, the recording that could end both their careers. Evidence of corruption, intimidation, violence. That phone could have an accident. Curtis takes a step toward Martha, his baton ready, his eyes hungry for violence. Could, but it won't. Martha doesn't move, doesn't back down, just keeps recording. Because this video is already uploading. Cloud storage, multiple servers. Delete one copy, 10 more appear. Grissom's face goes pale. Curtis's grip tightens on his baton. You're making a mistake, Martha. The mistake was thinking you could intimidate Frank without consequences. The sheriff and deputy exchange glances, calculating odds, measuring risks, deciding whether to escalate or retreat. This isn't over. Grissom turns away, walks toward his patrol car. Curtis follows, his baton still drawn. It is for tonight. Martha keeps recording until both men drive away. Their taillights disappear into the darkness, leaving Frank alone with broken glass and the weight of their threats. You okay? They know about the files. They know we're getting close. Frank kicks at the glass around his feet. Each piece catches light, reflects his broken world back at him. They'll come after you next. Let them try. Martha finally lowers her phone. Her hands shake. But her voice stays steady. We have them on video now. Threatening a citizen. Destroying property. Will it matter? It will, if we can prove they took your daughter. Frank looks at his ruined truck. At the evidence of their corruption scattered across the parking lot. At Martha Chen, the night custodian who refuses to be invisible anymore. Then we better find her soon. We will. Martha pockets her phone, starts walking toward her car. Before they kill us both. Frank's kitchen light spills yellow across the gravel driveway. 3 cars sit parked beside his house. Cars he doesn't recognize. His front door stands unlocked, voices drifting through the screen. Women's voices, low and careful, the sound of secrets being shared. Frank pushes through the door, finds his kitchen table surrounded by faces he knows but has never seen together. Martha Chen sits at the head of the table, folders spread before her like battle plans. Two other women flank her sides. Frank. Martha stands, gestures to the women beside her. This is Elena Stone, Rebecca's mother. Elena Stone looks older than her 45 years. Gray streaks her black hair. Lines map her face like scars. Her hands shake slightly as she nods at Frank. And Dolores Martinez, Carmen's mother. Dolores appears younger but carries herself like an old woman. Her daughter Carmen was the first name on Tommy's wall. 5 years of grief have bent her shoulders, dimmed her eyes. Ladies! Frank removes his jacket, hangs it on the back door. Glass from his broken truck windows still clings to the fabric. We heard about your truck. Elena's voice carries the weight of shared pain. Frank recognizes the tone, the way loss changes how people speak. Sheriff Grissom wanted to send a message. Same message he's been sending for years, Dolores says. Stop asking questions, stop looking, stop caring. Martha spreads more folders across Frank's table. Financial documents, photographs, handwritten notes, evidence collected over months of careful investigation. How long have you been meeting? Since Rebecca disappeared, Elena says. 8 months. Frank pulls out a chair, sits across from the women. His kitchen feels different now. Smaller, more dangerous, like a place where revolutions begin. We tried going through proper channels. Martha opens the first folder, reveals police reports, missing persons filings. Official documents stamped with Sheriff Grissom's signature. Filed missing persons reports, demanded investigations, called state police. Elena opens another folder, bank statements, deposit records, financial trails that lead back to familiar names. Proper channels are owned by the men who took them. Dolores spreads photographs across the table. Surveillance shots of Sheriff Grissom, Deputy Blake, Commissioner Morrison, pictures taken from hidden cameras, telephoto lenses, careful observation. So what do? Frank studies the photographs, Grissom accepting envelopes of cash, Blake loading struggling figures into unmarked vehicles, Morrison shaking hands with men Frank doesn't recognize. We make our own justice. Martha's voice carries certainty that cuts through Frank's doubt. These women have moved beyond grief into something more dangerous, something that powerful men should fear. What kind of justice? Elena unfolds a detailed map of the county. Red pins mark locations, times, dates, a pattern of movement and activity, the kind that puts them in prison for life. Dolores opens a laptop, shows Frank video files, security footage from gas stations, traffic cameras, private businesses, hours of evidence collected and cataloged. We've been watching them for months. Frank leans closer, sees his daughter's face in one of the videos, Mary walking out of the diner on her last night of freedom. A black SUV following her down Main Street. That's Mary. 2 hours before she disappeared, Martha says, we have the whole sequence. Elena clicks to the next video, Mary walking toward the bus stop. The SUV pulling alongside her, 2 men getting out. Sheriff Grissom and Deputy Blake. Frank's hands clench into fists, watching his daughter's kidnapping play out in grainy security footage. They forced her into the vehicle. In broad daylight, on Main Street, 3 witnesses saw it happen. Dolores produces written statements, testimonies from people too scared to go to police. Why didn't anyone call for help? They did, Elena says. Called the sheriff's office, told them Mary Holloway was being forced into a car by 2 men. Martha points to the incident report, filed by the dispatcher, signed by Sheriff Grissom himself. Grissom responded personally, told everyone Mary was being arrested for shoplifting. Frank stares at the official report, his daughter's kidnapping transformed into a routine arrest. Truth buried under paperwork and authority, and people believed him. People believe what men with badges tell them, Dolores says. Same way they believed my Carmen ran away with some boy. Elena opens another folder. More photographs, more evidence. A systematic documentation of corruption spanning 5 years. We have financial records showing payments to Grissom, Blake, and Morrison after each disappearance. We have vehicle registrations linking the kidnappers to county government. We have witness statements placing all 3 men at crime scenes. Martha spreads out the evidence like cards in a winning hand. Months of investigation condensed into an undeniable pattern of guilt. What about the girls? Where are they being held? Elena closes her laptop, meets Frank's eyes with something that might be hope. That's what we're working on now. Dolores produces a different map. This one shows rural properties, abandoned buildings, isolated locations outside town. Morrison owns 17 properties in the county, most of them through shell companies. We've surveilled 12 of them, found evidence of recent activity at 3 locations. Martha circles the properties with a red pen. An old mining operation, an abandoned warehouse, a hunting lodge deep in the woods. Motion sensors, fresh tire tracks, security cameras where there shouldn't be any. Frank studies the circled locations, places where his daughter might be held, places where justice might finally be found. How do we get inside? Carefully, Elena says, with documentation, with witnesses, with evidence that can't be buried or ignored. Dolores opens a final folder. Contact information for journalists, federal agents, civil rights lawyers, people outside the county's sphere of corruption. We're not vigilantes, Frank. We're building a case. A case that will hold up in federal court, Martha adds. A case that will destroy these men completely. Frank realizes these women have moved beyond grief into something more powerful. They've become investigators, prosecutors, judges, a shadow justice system operating in his kitchen. What do you need from me? Your anger, Elena says simply. Your determination, your refusal to give up. And your barn, Dolores adds. Tommy Prescott has been carving names for years, but we need somewhere to meet, somewhere they won't think to look. Frank considers this. His property becoming headquarters for a secret rebellion. His barn wall already marked with the names of the disappeared. You can use whatever you need. Martha begins collecting the evidence, preparing to relocate their operation. Years of careful investigation moving from hidden courthouse files to Frank's weathered barn. There's something else. Elena hesitates, glances at the other women. We know where they're taking the girls next. Frank's blood freezes. What do you mean? Morrison hosts parties, private gatherings, men with money and power. Dolores opens her laptop again, shows Frank a calendar of events, dates that correspond with disappearances. Emma Rodriguez disappeared yesterday. The next party is scheduled for tomorrow night. Martha stands, begins packing files into boxes. Her movements are quick, efficient, the movements of a woman preparing for war. If we're going to save these girls, tomorrow night is our only chance. Frank helps gather the evidence. 18 missing daughters, months of investigation, a secret army of mothers who refuse to accept the lies they've been told. What's the plan? Elena smiles for the first time since Frank met her, a cold expression that promises justice for her missing daughter. We're going to crash Morrison's party. And we're going to document everything, Dolores adds. Every face, every crime, every moment of their guilt. Martha carries the first box toward the door, looks back at Frank. Are you ready for this? Frank thinks about Mary's name carved into his barn wall, about her face in the security footage, about 18 daughters who deserve justice. I've been ready since the day she disappeared. The mothers file out of his kitchen, carrying their evidence and their determination into the night. Frank's house feels empty now, but the emptiness carries weight, purpose, the promise of action. Tomorrow night, the war begins. Frank's headlights cut through the darkness as his borrowed truck rumbles down the dirt road leading to Morrison Estate. Tommy sits beside him, clutching a flashlight and bolt cutters stolen from Frank's tool shed. Turn off the lights. Frank kills the headlights, navigates by moonlight. The Morrison mansion looms ahead, dark windows like dead eyes watching their approach. Security cameras? Disabled them yesterday. Tommy's voice carries the confidence of someone who's done this before. Frank parks behind a line of oak trees, hidden from the main road. How long have you been watching this place? 3 months. They climb out of the truck, boots crunching on fallen leaves. The mansion sits silent. No lights, no movement. Commissioner Morrison's family is at their lake house for the week. Martha's intelligence confirmed it. Motion sensors, only around the front entrance. Tommy leads Frank around the side of the house, staying close to the shadows. The basement entrance sits hidden behind overgrown hedges, invisible from the main grounds. Found this 2 weeks ago. Tommy shines his flashlight on a steel door built into the ground. Heavy locks, reinforced frame. Not the kind of entrance for storing garden tools. What's down there? Things Morrison doesn't want anyone to see. Frank takes the bolt cutters, positions them on the first lock. The metal gives way with a sharp crack that echoes in the darkness. Someone will hear that. Nearest neighbor is 5 miles away. 3 more locks. 3 more cracks of breaking metal. Tommy pulls the door open, reveals concrete steps descending into blackness. "After you." Frank steps into the darkness, Tommy's flashlight beam dancing ahead of him. The stairs are newer than the house above, poured concrete instead of old stone. Recent construction, recent secrets. The smell hits them halfway down. Fear and desperation soaked into concrete walls. Disinfectant trying to cover something worse. Frank's stomach turns. Jesus. Gets worse. They reach the bottom. Tommy sweeps his flashlight across the space. Frank's breath catches in his throat. Cells. 4 of them. Metal bars, concrete floors, buckets in the corners. This is where they kept them. Frank approaches the nearest cell. Sees scratches in the concrete. Names carved with fingernails. Dates. Desperate messages. "Help me. My name is Sarah Chen. Someone please find me." Frank's hands shake as he reads the words. Sarah's final hope scratched into Morrison's basement wall. They were here. All of them. Tommy's light finds more scratches. More names. Mary's handwriting on the wall farthest from the stairs. "I am Mary Holloway. My father is Frank Holloway. He will come for me." Frank's knees buckle, his daughter's faith carved in stone, her belief that he would save her. Where are they now? Gone. Tommy moves to a table covered with personal belongings, jewelry, clothing, photographs, trophies from Morrison's victims. They moved them 3 days ago. Frank finds Mary's necklace hanging on a hook beside others, the silver cross her mother gave her. The last gift before cancer took her voice. 3 days ago. Tommy nods, continues searching through the evidence. Driver's licenses, high school rings, cell phones with dead batteries. Same day you found me carving names. The timing hits Frank like a punch. His discovery of Tommy, Tommy's revelation about the missing girls, Morrison's sudden evacuation of his prisoners. Someone warned them. Someone knew you were getting close. Frank pockets Mary's necklace, feels the silver warm against his palm, evidence of his daughter's imprisonment, proof that she was here. Who knew about our investigation? Besides us, Martha, Elena, Dolores. Tommy's flashlight reveals restraints bolted to the walls, chains, shackles, instruments of control. Frank's rage builds with each new horror. Someone else. Someone with access to our plans. Frank examines the cells more carefully. Fresh cleaning supplies in the corner. Bleach, disinfectant, industrial scrubbing brushes. Someone tried to erase the evidence. They cleaned up fast. Professional job. Tommy finds security cameras in the corners, lenses smashed, hard drives removed. Morrison's basement contained its own surveillance system. Recorded everything. Evidence or entertainment? The question hangs in the air like poison. Frank realizes Morrison didn't just imprison these girls. He documented their suffering, shared it with others. Both. Tommy discovers a desk against the far wall. File cabinets, computer equipment, business records. Morrison ran his operation like a company. Client lists. Frank opens the first file cabinet, finds folders organized by date. Each folder contains photographs, personal information, financial transactions. He was selling them to men who could pay. The files reveal Morrison's customer base, politicians, businessmen, law enforcement officials, names Frank recognizes from local government and state politics. How many customers? Dozens. Frank flips through the files, sees prices listed beside each girl's photograph, amounts that make his stomach turn, human beings reduced to merchandise. Sarah Chen, $15,000. Rebecca Stone, $20,000. Mary Holloway, $25,000. Frank's daughter commanded the highest price. Recent, undamaged, from a family with no connections. Perfect victim for Morrison's market. They moved them because of me. Because you started asking questions. Tommy finds Morrison's appointment calendar. Pages torn out for the last week. Someone destroyed the evidence of where the girls were taken. Someone in law enforcement tipped them off. Grissom or Blake? Frank considers the possibilities. Sheriff Grissom, who closed every investigation. Deputy Blake, who helped with the kidnappings. Both men with access to police communications. Maybe both. Tommy's flashlight battery starts to fade. The beam grows weaker, shadows deeper. They need to leave before someone discovers the broken locks. We have to go. Not without evidence. Frank grabs files from the cabinet, stuffs photographs and client lists into his jacket, proof of Morrison's crimes that survived the hasty cleanup. They'll know someone was here. Good. Let them know. Tommy leads Frank back up the concrete stairs. The fresh air tastes sweet after the basement's poisoned atmosphere. Where do you think they took them? Somewhere far from here. Frank locks the basement door behind them, tries to hide evidence of their break-in. The broken locks tell their own story. Another property? Or another state? They reach Frank's truck, climb inside. Frank starts the engine, drives away from Morrison Estate with his daughter's necklace burning in his pocket. We'll never find them now. Yes, we will. Tommy's certainty surprises Frank. The boy speaks like someone who knows secrets worth sharing. How? Because I know where Morrison keeps his real records. Frank glances at Tommy, sees something new in the boy's expression. Knowledge, hope, the promise of justice. Where? His hunting lodge. The place where he takes his special clients. Frank presses the accelerator, speeds toward town. Mary's necklace reminds him that she's still alive, still waiting, still believing he'll come for her. Then that's where we're going next. That's where we end this. Tommy stares out the window as Morrison Estate disappears behind them. 18 girls move to a new location, a new hell. But with them went Morrison's mistake. He left evidence behind, evidence that would destroy him, evidence that would bring his victims home. Frank's truck kicks up gravel as he speeds through the Morrison Estate gates. The mansion sits ablaze with lights, every window glowing like a beacon in the darkness. Commissioner Blake Morrison stands on his front porch, phone pressed to his ear, shouting orders at someone. Frank slams his truck door, strides across the manicured lawn. His boots leave muddy prints on Morrison's perfect grass. Mary's necklace burns in his pocket like a brand. Morrison. The commissioner turns, sees Frank approaching. His face shifts from surprise to calculation to fear in the span of a heartbeat. Frank Holloway, you're trespassing on private property. Your basement says otherwise. Morrison's grip tightens on his phone. His knuckles go white. His jaw clenches. The mask of political civility slips, revealing something uglier underneath. I don't know what you're talking about. Concrete cells, metal bars, my daughter's necklace hanging on your wall like a trophy. Car headlights sweep across the estate grounds. Elena Stone's sedan pulls through the gates, followed by Martha Chen's station wagon. Dolores Martinez drives behind them. Her phone held high, camera recording everything. You brought friends. I brought witnesses. The mothers spread out across Morrison's property, positioning themselves at strategic points. Each woman holds a phone, streaming live video to social media platforms, documenting Morrison's fall in real time. This is harassment. This is justice. Frank steps closer, close enough to smell Morrison's expensive cologne and fear sweat. The commissioner backs toward his front door, but there's nowhere to run. Where are they? Where are who? The girls. My daughter. The 18 names carved into my barn wall. Morrison's phone buzzes with incoming calls, his political empire crumbling as the mother's live streams go viral, comments flooding in, shares multiplying, truth spreading faster than lies. You'll never prove anything. I don't need to prove it. I just need to find them. Frank pulls out his phone, shows Morrison the photographs from the basement, client lists, financial records, evidence of human trafficking on an industrial scale. Martha uploaded everything an hour ago. Federal servers, multiple platforms, international media outlets. Morrison's face goes pale. He understands the implications. His political career, his business interests, his freedom, all disappearing into the digital void of viral exposure. You don't understand the forces you're dealing with. I understand enough. More cars arrive. Tommy Prescott climbs out of a pickup truck, bolt cutters in his hands. Behind him, other teenagers, other kids who've been watching, waiting, documenting Morrison's crimes. The young people have been busy tonight. Tommy approaches Morrison's front door, begins cutting through the decorative chains that lock it. Other kids spread across the property, setting up cameras broadcasting from multiple angles. Breaking and entering is a felony. So is kidnapping. Sheriff Grissom's patrol car roars through the gates, lights flashing but no siren. Deputy Curtis Blake follows in a second vehicle. Both men look panicked, desperate. Sheriff, thank God you're here. Grissom climbs out of his car, hand resting on his service weapon. Curtis flanks him, baton already drawn, but they hesitate, seeing the cameras, the live streams, the audience watching their every move. Frank Holloway, you're under arrest. For what? Trespassing, breaking and entering, harassment of a public official. Martha Chen steps forward. Phone still recording. We have video of you threatening Frank 3 nights ago. We have evidence of you taking bribes. We have proof you've been covering up kidnappings for years. Grissom's face twists with rage. His hand moves toward his weapon, then stops. Too many witnesses. Too many cameras. Too much light on his darkness. That evidence won't hold up in court. It's already holding up on the internet. Elena Stone approaches Morrison, her phone inches from his face. My daughter Rebecca trusted you. Her school had a fundraiser at your house. You served her punch and cookies before you destroyed her life. Morrison tries to turn away, but the cameras follow him. There's no escape from the truth when it's broadcast live to thousands of viewers. I never touched your daughter. But you sold her. Dolores Martinez joins the confrontation, her voice carrying the weight of 5 years of grief. Carmen was 14 when you took her. 14 years old. A child. More vehicles arrive. State police cars, federal agents, news vans. Morrison's political connections have abandoned him. His protection has evaporated. This is a witch hunt. This is accountability. Frank watches Morrison's empire collapse in real time. Comments streaming across phone screens. Media outlets picking up the story. Politicians distancing themselves from a man they once courted. You can't prove I did anything illegal. We don't have to. Your customers are already confessing. Martha holds up her phone, shows Morrison the breaking news alerts. His client list has gone public. Politicians, businessmen, law enforcement officials, all scrambling to cut deals with federal prosecutors. Senator Williams just resigned. Judge Patterson is under investigation. District Attorney Reeves just gave an interview claiming he never knew about your operation. Morrison's phone rings continuously. His political allies turning against him, his business partners fleeing like rats from a sinking ship. They're all throwing you under the bus. The front door of the mansion opens. A woman emerges from the shadows. Morrison's wife, Catherine Morrison, 50 years old, silver hair, designer clothes that can't hide the exhaustion in her eyes. Blake, Morrison spins around, sees his wife for the first time. Her presence changes everything. She's been listening, watching, deciding. Catherine, go back inside. No. She descends the front steps, approaches Frank. Her hands shake, but her voice stays steady. I know where they are. Morrison's face goes white. Catherine, don't. I've been documenting everything for 20 years. Every crime, every victim, every payment. She reaches into her purse, pulls out a thumb drive. Video recordings, financial documents, communication records. Everything you need to destroy these men completely. Curtis Blake lunges toward Catherine, baton raised. Frank intercepts him, both men crashing into Morrison's expensive landscaping. Touch her and die. Curtis swings his baton, misses Frank's head by inches. Frank drives his fist into the deputy's ribs, hears bones crack. Stop filming. Grissom draws his weapon, points it at Martha's phone. But the cameras keep rolling. Other phones, other angles, other witnesses. You can't shoot all of us. Catherine Morrison walks to Frank, hands him the thumb drive. 20 miles north, abandoned mine shaft. They moved the girls there 3 days ago. Morrison grabs his wife's arm, yanks her toward the house. You're destroying everything we built. I'm ending everything you destroyed. Catherine pulls free, faces her husband. 20 years of silence broken in a single moment. I helped 12 girls escape over the years, the ones I could save, but I couldn't save them all. Frank pockets the thumb drive, starts toward his truck. The mothers follow, their live streams capturing every moment. Frank, Catherine calls after him. The mine shaft has multiple tunnels. They'll be in the deepest section. And Frank, he turns back. They're alive, all of them. Blake keeps them alive for the repeat customers. Morrison's scream echoes across his estate as Frank drives away. Behind him, state police swarm the property, Grissom and Curtis in handcuffs. Morrison's empire reduced to rubble and viral video. The live streams continue. Millions of viewers are watching justice unfold in real time. Truth spreading faster than corruption can contain it. Frank presses the accelerator, races toward the mine shaft. Mary's necklace warm against his heart. The thumb drive burning in his pocket. 20 miles to his daughter, 20 miles to justice. The mothers follow in convoy, their phones still broadcasting, documenting the final chapter of Morrison's reign of terror, the end of silence, the beginning of truth. Frank's truck disappears into the darkness, carrying hope toward the girls who never stopped believing someone would come for them. Behind him, Morrison's mansion burns with lights and sirens and the cleansing fire of exposure. Justice doesn't always come from courtrooms. Sometimes it comes from mothers with phones and fathers who refuse to give up, and teenagers who carve names into barn walls. Sometimes justice comes from the darkness, carried by people who've lost everything and have nothing left to fear. Frank drives toward his daughter, toward the truth, toward the end of Morrison's nightmare. The showdown is over. The rescue begins now.